but this is how you know if you're staying in the peak. Okay, guys, ready for this? If you missed the entire video, at least remember this. What you need to do to stay in this peak of, not undertrained, not overtrained, to stay at the muscle growth peak, what you need to do is do this. Yeah, what's going on, guys? Seth Spartan here, nutrition, training, and hormone expert and Prometheus Pro bodybuilder with Prometheus HRT, the world's best testosterone and hormone replacement clinic. Guys, today we're going to be talking about overtraining, one of the worst training, fitness, bodybuilding, athletic mistakes you could ever make. Guys, I've been wanting to do a video on this for a long time, but it has kept slipping my mind. Having said that, guys, let's talk about it. Overtraining video. Long time coming, one of the most important videos ever. So let's address this. Overtraining, one of the worst mistakes. Why? Let's get into this. So as you guys can see, I have set up a graph. Just a normal, simple graph, easy to read, easy to look at. So on the left side, guys, over here, we have muscle damage and stimulation. So I'm writing it out this way, and I'm putting the information out this way so that you guys can easily grasp this and easily get a hold on this. So ignore training type. We're just talking about muscle damage and stimulation. It doesn't matter if you're doing high intensity training, if you're doing high volume training, if you're doing time under tension training, or anything else. Guys, this is independent of training type. We are addressing muscle damage and stimulation. Obviously, because, with high volume, high intensity, time under tension, the bottom line and the main contributor to muscle growth is going to be muscle damage and stimulation, irrelevant of the training type. We can argue on more efficient training types, but not needed. Having said that, guys, let's get right into the meat. So left side of the graph, muscle damage and stimulation, okay? Underneath, muscle growth, okay? So take a look here. The more muscle damage and stimulation you're able to do during your workouts, and guys, we are talking, this graph, again, we are talking, if I did not make this clear, we are talking about for maximum muscle growth, okay? So let's go. Muscle damage and stimulation. As muscle damage and stimulation rise, we can see obviously there is almost a direct correlation between muscle growth. So the more muscle damage and stimulation, we're getting a rise in muscle growth. It's going up, 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 up. And then we get to a point where it starts lessening. The more damage, the more muscle damage and stimulation, you start kind of plateauing out, and then you hit a peak area. There's not going to be, I've seen people draw out something kind of similar. There's not going to be an actual peak where it goes up, it hits a peak, and it comes down. Guys, that's just not logical, and that's just not, how it's going to work. It's going to be, there's going to be a peak area, okay? Just like, for example, if you've been following this channel and you know anything about hormones, let's say somebody does a testosterone cypionate injection for TRT, HRT, whatever, doctor prescribed. Somebody does a TRT injection, we'll say 200 milligrams, you do a whole CC. There's not going to be this one little peak area, where it looks like a point. This is not going to happen. There's going to be this area where it goes up, it's rounding, and it starts coming down. That's what the pharmacokinetics of that look like. It likewise, guys, it's going to be similar. The only difference is it's going to be just like a shield volcano. So as you guys can see this, it kind of looks just like a shield volcano. It goes up and it goes down, okay? Whereas if we were talking, again, testosterone injection, again, just for reference, graph, you get that rise, and then it would slowly start going down. It wouldn't be like a shield volcano, just based on look. This, guys, to make it simple and short and sweet and to the point, muscle damage and stimulation arises. Again, it looks just like a shield volcano. It's a rounded, it's a slow rounded It's a slow, rounded look. Increasing muscle damage and stimulation. You're going up, you're going up, you're going up, you're going up, and it's rounding at the top and it's going down. So what happens is, guys, is people, and this is, I was an idiot too, when I was, a teenager, I thought more is better, more muscle damage, more growth. Well, to a point, that's true. To a point, that's true. More muscle damage and stimulation, you get better gains until it becomes less effective, and you kind of round up at that peak. So if we were to name a peak here, guys, this peak is going to be right here. Now, I would love to, and I want to give you guys, a time amount. How many hours or how many minutes in the gym, how many exercises, how many sets, everything else. But it is too dependent. It's too dependent on, first off, your genetics, your hormone profile, and your recovery ability. Your recovery ability being first and foremost. So nutrition, training, hormone, profile, genetics. This is going to play a role, to where that peak is for you, because people are going to be different. Some people, this is going to be farther this way or farther that way. But regardless, point aside, I'm going to give you guys a way, though, to know, since I can't give you an exact, everybody wants an exact calculation, or how many sets, how many reps, what kind of workout for this long. Since I can't give you guys that, because everybody's genetics, nutrition, training, hormones, are going to be different, what I can give you is I can give you an individualized way to know if you are overtraining or not. So one more time, guys, just to make sure everyone's got it. Muscle damage and stimulation increase. We hit a peak, between these 2 points, and then we start rounding down. So obviously more is not better. You go past, a certain point of muscle damage and stimulation. What actually happens is, guys, in this latter half, what's actually happening is, if I was in the gym, training chest for 2 hours hard, high volume like I used to, what you're doing is you're pushing into this territory. So you're still getting a little bit of muscle growth, but the problem is that you're doing so much muscle damage and stimulation that you're actually inhibiting, slowing down, or stopping your body's ability to repair that damaged tissue and grow stronger, create hypertrophy from that needs to be said. So to finish out, guys, how do you stay in the peak? That's the question again, how to stay in the peak. That's the golden question. How do I stay at this point right here? How do I stay here? Well, I already told you guys, nutrition, training, hormones, genetics are all different, and then training styles different. But this is how you know if you're staying in the peak. Okay, guys, ready for this? If you missed the entire video, at least remember this. What you need to do to stay in this peak of, not undertrained, not overtrained, to stay at the muscle growth peak, what you need to do is do this. Regardless of training type, high intensity, high volume, time under tension, whatever you're doing, regardless of training type, regardless of sets and volume, what you want to do is you want to, let's say you train chest. We'll just take chest. You train chest, you train legs, doesn't matter. What you need to do is the next day, the next 2 days, okay, after that training, if you are debilitatingly sore, it's hurting, it's interfering with your lifestyle, your just simple life. And I'm not talking, if you have a physical job. I'm saying, average, going to the bathroom, walking around, just normal day-to-day activities. If you hit chest, you hit legs, if it's so debilitatingly sore, it takes, about a whole week, to where you feel right again, you're doing too much. So not just is there a time reference, but day 1 and day 2, because usually soreness peaks right around 36, 48 hours. So 36, 48 hours in, 1 to 2 days in, if you are too sore, let's say you train legs and you are limping around, you're limping around, you can barely get up off the toilet, things like this, of this nature, you're doing too much to where you're going to be inhibiting your recovery. And again, the sets, the reps, the training style, all this is irrelevant. If you're struggling to do basic bodily things, walking around, going to the bathroom, etc., you've done too much. You're actually inhibiting recovery. Okay. Having said that, if let's say the next day, the next 2 days, if you are, again, 1-2 days, we're talking soreness peaking between usually 36 and 48 hours. So we'll just say 1 to 2 days. If you are, you barely feel like they're barely sore, you haven't really, they feel barely sore, it's not, you can't notice it, you barely notice anything, you've done too little, okay? You have not gotten enough muscle damage and stimulation, and you're shortchanging your gains, which means you're ending up on this side, all right? So how do you find the peak? Where is the peak? Well, the peak, guys, is going to be, let's say, for example, today I trained legs. So tomorrow and the next day, again, 1 to 2 days, usually soreness peaking at about day 2, right around 48 hours. But 1 to 2 days post-workout, let's say I trained legs. If I wake up and I go about my day and it feels sore, like I can definitely feel like I've done some damage, I worked them. If I'm going around and I feel sore, not barely sore, but if it feels sore, and not to the point where it's inhibiting my day-to-day activities. So tomorrow I wake up, or the next day I'm going around, they feel decently sore, but it's not inhibiting, it's not inhibiting my daily, tasks. It's not inhibiting lifestyle, average basic functions. Then you're right in that peak. Usually, you're gonna have to, mess around with, adjusting volume. If you're training high volume, you're gonna have to mess with sets. If you're doing high intensity, HIT, Dorian Yates, more of Ronnie Coleman style too. You're gonna have to mess around with how many sets you're doing, how many exercises, this and that. But the bottom line, guys, is you wake up and it's hurting to go to the bathroom. It's hurting. You're barely able to get up and down the stairs. You've done too much. You're shortchanging your gains. You're inhibiting your body's recovery response. If you feel like you've just done too much. On the other end, guys, if you barely feel like you've done anything, you have just a teeny bit of soreness. Feels like you barely worked out. You've done too little. You're shortchanging gains. So again, to be right in that peak, you want to wake up. Whatever muscle group you trained, it should be sore. It should be sore. Not to the point where it's debilitating, like I described, but not where you barely feel it either. And, if you're doing legs, obviously you're going to notice. But, if you did chest the day before, kind of see how sore you are, see how it feels, stretch out. But you should be able to, become kind of an expert at this and kind of know right away where in this groove you are feeling. So again, this is something that's more intermediate and advanced for bodybuilding, fitness, athletics in general, because it takes an intermediate or an advanced person to be able to not just be disciplined to stick to this, but to figure out exactly where this is. So experimentation is key. Again, guys, Seth Spartan, stay safe, stay healthy. This is everything you want to know, talking about the very extremely important subject of overtraining, one of the worst mistakes. Seth Spartan, and we are out of here.